my face, that's a good thing. You should be able to see the screen. Just kind of talking, it's the PowerPoint, so you can follow along with what we're talking about today. How to find valuable investment deals in an overpriced market. I think it's real key to explore a lot of different options right now. If you really look at where the market is going and what's been happening lately, it becomes imperative for us, especially as agents and whatnot that are dealing with investors, to start to look for different avenues and whatnot that we can bring some sort of value to our clients. I know that a lot of deals that you'll go out there and you'll find on the MLS, they're going to be overpriced. They're not going to pencil. They're not going to make sense, especially if you're trying the different ways of making these things work for your clients. I also want to let you know real quick, if you got a question or anything, jump in on chat, chime in, whatever. My classes are always designated to, I'll follow the flow and process of what I've lined out, but a lot of times you guys have great questions that can really open us up for different topics and different ways to take the discussion. Okay. All right. So let's start moving through this thing. Okay. Couple things on what you need to know, especially as a new agent or even as an existing agent. We're always out there trying to evaluate deals. Okay. You're going to run into a lot of people who want to get some sort of investment property going. And what you want to do is you want to start to evaluate them for them. Okay. You really need to contemplate, does this make sense? A lot of times you've got investors who they want to invest, they want to buy, buyers, whatever, but they don't actually know, is this a good buy for me or not? Okay. As an agent, we're always contemplating, does this make sense for my particular client? It may make sense for them. It may make sense for you, but a lot of times in this market, it doesn't make any sense. It's too high of an entry point in certain instances. So we want to make sure that if that's the case, we try to figure out, does this make sense in this type of deal? As we're going on from that, we always want to evaluate the deal. All right, going back to the same thing and contemplating it. It's not only thinking about it; it's putting the numbers down on paper. Okay, if it's say I'm picking this up for them, and it's a type of investor, kind of like myself, who in my investments is looking for cash flow. I need to evaluate this property and look at the things that are going to be profitable for it, or the expenses that are going to hit on it, and make it not be a profitable venture for them. Okay. Another aspect of doing this is relating any kind of deal to a potential buyer and whatnot. A lot of times in being able to talk with them a little bit about what are they looking for, sometimes in creating different aspects and stories and things that you have come across before, you may trigger and help it become relatable to their situation. Okay. For instance, I have some clients right now, and what they're looking for is to pick up an investment here in Phoenix because they think that Phoenix is going to continue to grow as a market. But the ultimate objective is to buy it so that way it can create a college fund, if you will, for their kids down the road. So as they have an objective or something going like that, what I do is I relate that to another set of clients that I have who did buy some units down here. And what they're doing is they're staying aggressive with the units and paying them off. So that way, 18 years from now, they are virtually paid off. And now that money is, one of two things can happen. Either A, they're just creating this cash flow every month to pay off this college debt, or B, selling it and just flat out taking care of the college with this investment they bought. Okay. So always try to relate it to different situations and scenarios that you come across. When you do come across these things, do not hesitate to call, text, ask me. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've got a lot of different clients that are in a million different realms, and we've seen a million different stories. And sometimes I may have a story for you, and that can always help. You want to relate that to their situation. All right. And then initiate it. And then we'll talk about that in far as going out and looking for the product or what they're looking for, starting drips, starting different ways to get the juices flowing for them, and finding them something that's going to work for their specific situation. Okay. Now, how do I find a deal that makes sense? I want to jump into that right away. All right. Number one, I think always is price. Does the price make sense at what I'm trying to do? Now, you got multiple people that are gonna be looking to go in. Price is really going to be important for someone, especially when they are going all cash. Okay, if I'm going in all cash, I want to know that my money is that I'm getting the best bang for my buck. Okay, that's not always the most important thing when someone is getting financing because you're leveraging out, and you guys know this, but that price is real important. Okay. Next one is location. Again, just the basics. We're going through some basics here. Location is always important. I'll tell you right now, if you have clients that are looking to make cash flow, Scottsdale is probably not going to be your best place because you're going to have a higher entry point. And so that month over month may not make sense. Location where you would want to live as an individual may not always be the most important thing as far as investment property. Of course, there is the other end of that other aspect of that location. There's a certain spot where you do want to stay out of, drug neighborhoods, et cetera, but location, always something to consider. Okay, with those out of the way, condition becomes really important, okay? I found recently that we do have a lot of investors that are coming in, and what they're looking for is, can I buy something newer that is going to have very little maintenance because I think it's newer? That isn't always the case. Every builder is different, stuff can happen and whatnot. But that condition of the property can be a negotiating point, especially if, for instance, it's has some fixer aspect to it. There's some sort of defect, not a material defect like a foundation or anything like that, but maybe it just needs a paint job, maybe it needs a little touch up in the kitchen or something like that. But that condition is always something to consider, especially when you start building into their model of, am I going long term with this? Okay. Maintenance goes along with that as well. We have different things that come in with these properties, such as older water heaters, older roofs and things like that. So, is there going to be a maintenance issue that's coming up? Do I factor that in at some point? Is it something that is of little consequence that maybe other investors look at as a bigger deal? And so, it kind of makes them back off and it creates an opportunity for me. Okay. Keep that in mind. Monthly costs, your HOA is always something on the first thing to consider. Do I have a high HOA maintenance? You're going to have people that are looking for condos, and whatnot. That HOA cost is really big on the condos. So keep that in mind when you're looking at and evaluating the deals. Other maintenance costs, if you have say fourplexes, triplexes, bigger units and stuff like that, generally water, garbage, and sewer is absorbed by the owner. So that's always going to be something that you've got to factor in, okay? You will have different instances, and there are different things that you can value add to this thing, such as you can add their sub meters, if you will, that you can put in there so you can start to pass that cost along. And that's something that can help out. But that water, garbage, and sewer is something, when you go over one unit, that's generally something that's going to be paid by the owner and not the tenant. So it's an added cost that goes in there. Let me touch on that really quick though. With utilities, if you ever get in a situation where there's a potential deal, and one of the things that's in there is the tenants are not responsible for the power, that's one of those deals where if you don't have the skill set to get out of that or maneuver through that, that could be a potentially huge cost and a huge issue for you or for your owner in the summertime when our AZ costs go up and whatnot. So always be looking out for that. And it's very rare, but every now and again they slip that in there, and that's going to be that's a lot of times that's a deal breaker. It's like, no way, do not pay for energy costs, because when you have that, you have tenants and they will run that AC at 65 degrees. They'll kill the AC, number one, but number two, they're going to run that power up. Now, if they're paying for the power, hey, whatever, be my guest. But that's another thing when it comes to air filters and whatnot. But be wary of that, okay? And then a deal that makes sense is always the income is so imperative, okay? A lot of times as we're out there right now, we are watching rents just skyrocket, okay? It's great for us as owners. It's awesome. We want to keep having those rents go up as owners. If you are looking at a deal and you're analyzing it and whatnot, don't be shaken if, like, let's say, for instance, you come across a deal and the income is really low on it. The renter's paying $600 a month, and you're like, oh my God, they should be paying $1,200. Let me throw this deal out. Okay, don't throw it out right away. look at it a little closer. You always want to look at what are the terms of the lease on that rental unit. If the terms are very close to being over, or if they are month to month, if you will, throw that out the door, because you can always go get another tenant, especially in today's rental climate. Oh man, it is easy to find renters. There's a glut of them. They're coming in, a lot of them from California and some states where they're used to paying a little bit more. So you can maneuver that into a deal that makes sense really fast. I know a lot of people will be analyzing deals off the MLS, and they're going to be looking at what's the monthly income right now on the units. That's, hey, absolutely look at that. But then if you go a little bit deeper, that's where you might find a deal or two there that may make sense by just upgrading the tenants and whatnot. On some of the multifamilies right now, a lot of the agents will actually say that in their
it's going to give you any information.
So when they are saying that in the description and whatnot,
so far it's pretty basic.
Take that into consideration. Okay, that hey, that you can raise those rents and whatnot. But if they haven't said that and whatnot, keep that in mind, that there is an opportunity for you to increase the rents. Okay. All right. How much and where is it at? In looking at investments and whatnot, square footage, lot size, those all come in, just like you're looking at single families and whatnot. Number of units is really important. You want to look at how many units do I have in there?
You want some cereal, Missy?
Work.
We got Honey Nut cereal.
You also want to know how many, and this is the more important thing, how many bedrooms per unit. Okay, if you're looking for investment properties and whatnot for your clients, whether it's single family, multifamily, whatever, it's real important to know to look at how many bedrooms there are per unit when you're making your determination on is this going to be a good deal or not. All right, I'll tell you right now, in multifamily, if you get a lot of efficiency units, a lot of studios, then it is going to be something that you do want to stay away from. Okay, it creates a complete turnover situation. A lot of efficiency units, they turn over really quickly. There are certain instances where it can work, but for the most part, it is going to be a problem. It's going to be a headache, and it's something that your client needs to prepare for. You want to try to have, in multifamily, 2-bedroom units are great. 3 bedrooms are good too, but try to stay away from those efficiency units. You can work with 1-bedrooms, but they need to, in general, if you do have 1 bedrooms, you want to have a yard there. Okay. In many cases, renters will be much more, the yard becomes more important to them than that 2nd bedroom, which comes down to marketability. Okay. So again, and when we're talking about trying to find these deals and everything, we want to make sure that we're going to have something that we're going to continue to be able to rent out year over year over year. Okay. So those are things to keep keep in your tool belt. Another thing to consider, room to add on. If you do have that bigger lot, square footage size and whatnot, check the zoning. Is there an opportunity for me to add a couple of units for this particular project? If there is, that's something valuable. Keep that in consideration. Also, even if it doesn't zone for more, can I just add another bedroom and value add this thing? Okay. So always when looking at it, it's go down there and take a quick look. If it looks like it's a pretty good deal on paper, do the drive-by and take a quick look and go, hey, is there something else that I'm missing over here? Or is there, more importantly, is there something else that somebody's missing that I can see that they can't see that will lead to a sale for me? Okay. As far as location is concerned, city, that's straightforward. Zoning, just touched on that right now. You're going to want to go see, do I have a potential multifamily zoning here to where I can add on? Okay. If you're in the wrong, and really keep in mind in the opposite direction as well. Sometimes you have wholesalers, especially, will be selling units and they'll say, oh, triplex, fourplex, whatever. And then you'll notice that it only has 1 meter. Well, it has 1 meter for a reason. It's zoned to single family. Okay. So definitely check that out. Go, is the zoning correct on the unit that I'm starting to sell to one of my potential clients? Okay. Amenities, just like in single family, parks, freeway access, shopping, all that stuff. Keep an eye on the amenities and whatnot. Okay. Are there potential changes that you can make in the property, good or bad? Whether it's the roof, is it a driveway that you can add in? Is there little amenities that can be added in to give a value add to make this thing more marketable? If it is, that might be something that's there for you to consider that other people will pass on. All right. So constantly always keep your eyes out on the property. What exactly am I looking for here? What can I possibly do with it? All right. All right. Let's see here. Then going back to our condition, very straightforward, exterior, interior. Do I have issues and whatnot that are there? One of the things here that I want to touch on that you're looking on your screen, hopefully, plumbing. Plumbing is a big issue and whatnot, and it's come across quite a bit lately. All right, and those of you that are in the chat right now, I will get to some of those questions here in a little bit. Okay, as far as the plumbing is concerned, definitely make sure that you look at the plumbing, especially if it's let's say before 1980. You really want to look and see, do I have potentially a unit that has cast iron drains? Okay. If you have some cast iron drains, you might have a potential issue that's coming up. It may not be there now, but it may be something in the future. Keep that in mind. And then also galvanized. Okay. We don't always catch it and whatnot with going through. I've recently really on the older units, making sure that my inspectors, even after then, asking my owners, hey, get a plumber to go through with a camera and take a look at the type of plumbing that's in the walls and whatnot. Make sure we don't have any galvanized. Look down the drain, see that it's already been dug out for PEX and whatnot. Make sure that we don't have cast iron down there, or get me the condition of the clay, so that way I can like know going forward, this is something that I'm looking at. Electric, very straightforward and whatnot. Check that electrical panel and everything like that. Most importantly with electric though, make sure there is a electrical panel for every unit. It's real important to make sure that there's an electrical panel for every unit, because if there's not, then you're going to have different issues and whatnot as far as who's paying what and whatnot. And then, again, it goes back to the owner. And if it does, then it really becomes an issue where if the owner is, having to absorb that additional cost, it may not be such a good deal. Roof is another thing that it's a little bit subjective and whatnot. Every single home inspector I think I've ever seen will go through, and if the roof isn't relatively in the first couple of years, is going to tell you, hey, get a new roof, put a new roof on there. A lot of times the roof can be, you can patch, you can get years out of it. There are different things that you can do to stretch the life out on that roof. So it's something to consider and whatnot, because the roof isn't always a deal breaker. Also roofs, for any of you that don't know, you can roll up composite roofs. You can put, up to 3 layers on there. So sometimes you don't have to rip it completely away and do all this other exorbitant costs and whatnot. Sometimes it's, hey, roll another layer out there, or hey, just repatch this section and you can make it for a while. And that may make sense to your buyer. Appliances, do they have old appliances, new appliances, etc. Really take a look at that AC and that age of it. Talking to my AC guy the other day, a lot of the guys have Freon and whatnot, so they can make these old ACs work and whatnot. It's not absolutely a necessity that you change it to the new standard and whatnot. So not always a deal breaker. There's always things that can happen there with that. But if it is, hey, 40 years old and whatnot, it is something that's going to have to go. Common area costs, when you are looking at stuff, you have different, there's all kinds of different things there. You have places that have like xeriscape. It's just a driveway, blacktop, maybe a little bit of desert gravel, and that's it. Other times you have a full-on lawn and you got vegetation and everything like that. Is there a way for us to maybe, bring that cost down? Because ultimately in those common areas, that's going to fall on the owner. Just talked on landscaping, different ways you can do that. Laundry facility. Laundry facility is another thing that absolutely can add some value to the property, but it also can be a headache. And I've got 2 schools of thought on that and whatnot, with people that are, forget it. I just don't want to go by and have to pay somebody to collect and deal with it and everything. Other sides are, hey, it is an extra income source that can add to you and whatnot. So does your laundry facility, do you have something there that can add some more income to me? Additionally, with that laundry facility, taking a look to make sure that, those units aren't extremely old. They're not a problem. Is it in a spot that's only accessible to your tenants? I've got one right now that's going on where one of our owners has a laundry facility, but what he has is he's got, units in there that are free to use. And so the tenants just use them and use them and use them and use them and use them. And it's been a problem because they keep burning out. And I've kind of urged him to, hey, maybe you should make this switch over. He hasn't wanted to do it yet, his own prerogative. But I've told him, if you go to this other way of doing it, you might be able to generate some more income in, and more importantly, stop having them burn those out so you have to replace them. But water facility is always something that can help out. Flooring is flooring. Hey, if you got carpet in your units and whatnot, it may be designated. You need to have carpet in if you've got nicer rental units or whatnot in Scottsdale. You might want to have some carpet in the bedrooms. In some of the lower ends, carpet is going to be something that you're going to constantly replace because they're going to tear it apart. They're going to have dogs and cats and everything else. So flooring is something to consider. Hey, does it maybe make sense to go tile? And I will speak, the hardwood laminate vinyl that we have out there, it's great. It really durable and everything else like that. But depending on what type of tenant you think you're going to have and whatnot, they may just not even realize that you can't mop it and pour water all over it and everything. So it may make sense to just go, hey, let me get some tile on there. Okay. All right. Another thing, windows. Windows are really important from a standpoint of making sure that you have, the right type of window for the situation. Dual pane windows are great and everything. Just keep in mind, they are going to be a little bit more costly to replace. So for instance, if you've got multifamily units and whatnot, and they have single family or single paned windows, you might want to just consider keeping them just because you have, they're less costly to replace, and the tenants may not appreciate them as much. So you just got to kind of look at that either way. What do I exactly have on here? Okay. All right. Maintenance and monthly costs. Okay. These are things that are really important to keep track of when you are looking at and evaluating the deal. Obviously, the utilities is a big thing. You don't want to be paying the utilities for anybody else. Additionally, do the utilities, are they separated and whatnot? Okay, we talked about that. Landscaping. Leaks are an important thing to take a look at in the ground and whatnot, and there are things that can potentially come up. That really comes back to the plumbing issue and whatnot, making sure that you take a look at it beforehand. Are we going to have any kind of potential plumbing issues that are going to cause leaks, especially in the water lines, where, hey, it could cost a couple, $300-400 if there's a leak that happens going forward. Okay. Broken fixtures are always something that are going to come in. Faucets always got to they need to be replaced. Toilets, things like that. Different monthly costs and maintenance things that will come up there. AC is real important. Just keep this in mind. When you do talk about your ACs and whatnot, it's important to get them serviced once a year, just so that way you can have your AC technician go out there and look at it and kind of get it taken care of and ready to go for the summertime. A lot of times with ACs and whatnot, we tell everybody change them once a month. Tenants don't always do that. Even in nicer units, tenants forget to change their filter. So we want to almost in a lot of instances drop off a filter now, because it's so easy to have things delivered. A lot of times I tell the owners, just order some filters and have them delivered directly to the tenant. And that way the tenant has them, they can make those changes. And that way, hopefully they understand. And this is what I tell them a lot of times. Not only is it your power bill, but it's also the damage that can happen to the AC unit, which you can be responsible for it. If it's you that's been negligent with this AC, it's ultimately on you, and that can come out of your security deposit. So we try to tell them about that. Okay. Management is a monthly cost that's going to come in, and management fees are going to be anywhere from a flat fee of $75 to $100. They can be a percentage of the gross income, usually anywhere from 8 to 10%. $80 for every 1,000, if you will, $100 for every 1,000. Something that you have to just keep in mind, and something that you have to build in. Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about management going forward. We talked about the roof, paint, storage is another thing that you can possibly have. That's another thing that adds value to your property. So it's something that can, that you want to keep in mind. But those storage units sometimes have a little bit of issues and whatnot, so they want to look at that. And then if they have a parking lot, sometimes you have to look, does it need to be resurfaced at some point? Okay. All right. So some of the things that you look at for monthly costs. Couple of questions that came in through the chat. From Dan Popa, do you find a multiplex more profitable than single family? I generally find multiplex are usually more profitable up to a certain point. I generally will stay anywhere from 2 to 4 units, just because you can get residential financing on them. So it generally seems to be a more profitable deal in this way. If you have a fourplex, obviously it's 4 times the rent and whatnot. Now it depends on what location and everything. So again, if you got a fourplex, and it has 4 studios, I think we talked about this before, the efficiency units, that might not be as profitable as having a nice single family somewhere. You just got to run the numbers. The single families in general will go up higher in value at certain times, but certain times it's fourplexes that go up in value faster, or triplexes or duplexes, because they are increasing more because investors are coming in and buying. So it just kind of depends. Another question came through: is it a good idea to invest in new homes? I have a couple of buyers right now that have been buying new homes. Depends on the part of town that you're in. If you're buying them in a new place, new part of town, or old part of town, doesn't matter. What really is important is how much can you rent them for. If they rent really well, keep it in mind, you're going to have less maintenance in there. Okay, and that's really an important thing. The maintenance is a portion that if you can write out of your costs, because it's new and whatnot, or there's a builder warranty or whatnot, sometimes that can definitely be very profitable. It can be a good idea, and depending on the price, absolutely. You really got to look at it. All right, let's see. One of the things in here, Tom Ackerman said to everyone, hey, stem wall eroding over time due to water intrusion. Yeah, absolutely. There's different things that can come in if it's puddling up and whatnot. So really keep an eye on that when it comes to the landscaping and everything else. What is a good rental location to get to new builds for everyone? I don't know. I've looked at stuff on the west side. It seems to be pretty good way out there if you're willing to go out to Buckeye, Waddell, Surprise. There seems to be some good stuff out there. You really got to look at it. And a lot of times what some of the agents will do is they'll ask me, hey, what do you think this will rent for? Look at that up front. Will it rent for a lot? If it does, then hey, maybe you got something there. If it won't, maybe it's not a good idea. So a couple of good questions there. Okay. All right. Keep in mind, a penny saved is a penny earned, but a penny spent can bring more dollars than saved pennies. Sometimes you have to reinvest in the properties. Okay. That's always simply something to look at. But I think I look at it like this: always ask yourself, is what I'm doing going to pay off in more money for me, or am I just wasting money? For instance, sometimes I have different investors who want to take, let's say, a unit, and let's say it's not in a great part of Glendale, okay, for instance, and they want to go in there and they want to add in granite countertops and dual pane windows and this, that, and the other, and they go and do it, and then they're like, well, how come I'm not renting it for this much more? And I'm like, because the market won't yield it. You have to look at it and go, does this actually make sense for me to fix this thing up to the point where it's so super nice than everybody else? Is it really going to do it for me? In certain instances, hey, you're going to increase that rent monthly and it makes sense. But in other instances, it doesn't make any sense. You might as well just put in quartz. You might as well put in laminate for your countertop. You may want to put in just a lesser tile and whatnot, because sometimes you just need things to really just be clean. It just depends on the neighborhood. So you always have to be asking yourself and considering, does it make sense? But in certain instances, when you put that money in, you're going to get a lot more yielded out of it. All right. So let's talk about, let's get into a little bit more about how am I going to start finding and identifying these deals. Okay. We kind of laid out a couple of things, the basics and whatnot. And I like to do that when talking in this class. Hey, different things to look for. But hey, how are we going to find these deals? Because that's what we're really here for, right? All right. First of all, I know that people have have told you before, in real estate, you have to make everything a daily habit. And that becomes extremely important if you're going to find some deals right now. Okay. Different times of the market, you know, you can take things for what they are. But right now, what do we know in the market? There are a ton of buyers out there. There is not a lot of listings out there. There are a lot of people that are pushing prices and everything like that. I know a lot of you that have individual buyers for single families. You're going out there, you're doing showings and whatnot, and sometimes you're getting back and there is just boom, it's gone. Okay, so we got to stay on top of it. We got to always be doing our searches. We always got to be looking at the MLS, but we always got to be, how do I find different ways to find things? Okay. All right. So first off, with those MLS searches, we got to go beyond just our residential searches. Everybody, if you don't know how the hot sheet works, look into the hot sheet. Get that going daily. Okay. 24 hours. Have it looking and sending you. This is the newest listings that are hitting the market. Okay. Be looking at your hot sheet. Another thing, expired listings. I'm going to jump over old listings for now because expired listings, I'll touch on real briefly. People have told you this before. Yes, look at those expired listings. Look at expired listings for duplex, triplex, fourplex. Okay, if it lasts that long, there's some sort of problem. Okay, so look at those expired listings. Old listings, all right? Whenever you get in there, try to look at stuff that has been sitting out there for, you know, more than 30 days, more than 2 months, more, you know, and then the extremely old listings, the 180 days. Just do quick searches on that stuff, okay? It's hard to encapsulate everything if you're just, you know, looking at it and, you know, you go, give me all these properties in this area and whatnot, and the MLS just spits you out, you know, all these properties. Real important to just get specialized with it, add in these different things so you just keep reducing it down and going, okay, I got to look at this, and really make a time. Make a time block for yourself, okay? Get it to where I'm like, hey, I'm going to spend this many minutes on this, this many minutes on this, this many minutes on this, and do it daily so it becomes a habit. This really, really now is one of those games where we really need to get in there and you're panning for gold in a way. You got to keep sifting through, and looking to make sure you catch something, okay? That's the way that you're going to do it. Also, look at listings by specific brokers. You as agents and whatnot, again, you start going through and you start looking for stuff and whatnot, you're going to see that certain listing agents out there find a way to get a bunch of listings. Hey, good for them. Awesome. You want to know what they have because you want to know what's coming up. Also, don't hesitate to touch bases with them every now and again. Okay. Hey, do you got anything new? Do you got a pocket listing? There is nothing wrong with asking that. All right, you got to ask the question and continue to ask that. One of the questions that came up in the portal, I just want to touch on that really quick. I'm finding a lot of new builders, in the chat, will not sell to investors recently. New builders can't not sell to investors, but they can make it more difficult. I can't really answer why they will do that. One of the thoughts that comes off the top of my head is, generally, buyers for, you know, their own personal residence are going to buy a much more off of their emotion, so they're going to be willing to pay a higher price. So it may be something like that where builders are just like, we'll just sell to whoever's going to move in there and whatnot because I want people that are willing to pay more for it, and I can, you know, raise the prices on. Investors are, I want it at this price because it makes sense for me. Might be that they may have an HOA issue. It may be something where, as they drew up the CC&Rs, they may have said, hey, I need to have X amount of people in here so we can get financing. I don't know, but that's something that to just keep into consideration when you are taking the investors out there to the new builds. Okay, back to the MLS searches. Okay, you got your multiple dwelling, fourplex, triplex, duplex. I talk about a lot about this is because you can get residential financing on that. Once you go bigger than that, you're going to have to go commercial. Still a great opportunity, search for that and everything, but make sure you get lined up with someone who does commercial lending. So that way, you know that once you go over, real important for those of you that are newbies, if you go over 4 units, 5 units, you need commercial financing. So, you know, that can be a deal breaker. Make sure you check on that. All right. MLS searches for gross rents. You know, check gross rents in there. See what's out there. That might yield you something that somebody may miss. Look for something like that. If you can search for expenses, search for expenses. Sometimes that will be something that you can utilize to find that. Another thing that on multi-property, if you search under multi-property, you're going to find some stuff that's bundled. Sometimes you get owners that absolutely think they need to sell their stuff all together. They tell the agent that and whatever. Depending on how long it sits, sometimes they may be willing to unbundle them. Okay, so look for properties that have to be sold together, and look at that. See see if you can find something there. It's just another thing to look at that maybe somebody misses. Okay, and then again, long days on the market. All right, so there's your MLS searches, things you need to do. All right, wholesalers. If those of you have not found wholesalers or anything like that, you need to start looking at wholesalers. All right, start talking to them. I know Keegley, I want to say those guys are connected to the brokerage and whatnot. You might want to reach out to those guys. There are so many wholesalers out there, and they're constantly getting new ones. Get on some of their mailing lists, and you'll start seeing this stuff come daily to your emails. All right. I won't lie to you. A lot of it's garbage right now, because not garbage in their garbage properties, but garbage from an investment standpoint, because it's too high. Like, you'll look at it, and I will say this: anytime you get a listing from a wholesaler, cross-reference it on the MLS. Make sure it's not on there. I found some of these guys will just throw MLS properties out there. So just look, again, it's just something that you've got to do. It's got to be a daily routine, checking in with the wholesalers. Okay, then try to establish a connection over there. You want to try to get one or two guys that you just know to go to, talk to them a lot. You never know when that opportunity is going to come, or you can get there before the rest of the party. A lot of times later in the day, they're getting ready to list it the next day. Check in with them just periodically. And this is all just one of those things that it's real easy to do. 30-second email. Hey, Chris, do you have this? Hey, Jim, do you have this? Do you got anything for me? I'm looking for a duplex. Do you have anything coming up? And just doing that. I know it can get redundant and whatnot, but it's one of those things that in a market like this, it's always trying to find, do I have a different way to get a hold of, get in front of it? Okay. Okay. Hard money lenders. All right. Hard money lenders are another good way to find some deals. Okay, these guys, when they do have a deal, they're guys that you want to use that you can close quickly with. You find a duplex and it's 150,000, and you're like, oh my God, price is great, I need to close on it, and they're like, you need to close in 5 days. Got to go to a hard money lender unless if your guy has cash. Okay, a lot of time my guys that have cash are like, I've got the cash. Can you find me a hard money lender? Okay. So start looking out there for the hard money lenders that you can find. Capital Fund, I think, is one of them. There's a ton of them out there. Just do some Google searches. You'll start finding these guys. But again, same thing like the wholesalers. You want to establish a connection with the hard money lenders, so that way you can just, hey, I'm Chris, I'm Tom. Hey, I want to get to know what you guys, how this works, and this, that, and the other. They'll walk you through it. They want to lend you the money, so they'll educate you through it and everything like that. If you already know. One thing that I'm like one of those guys that guys like me love to do is talk. And all you got to do is ask me a few questions about investment and this, that, and the other, and you can't shut me up. But here's the thing. I'm not the one that's learning. You are. And you have the opportunity by just sitting there and probing some of these hard money lenders, wholesalers. They will start to tell you all kinds of different stuff. All right. You just got to ask them some questions. Just ask a few questions, probe. Next thing you know, they are like, hey, I got this thing. They may be one of the first ones that they send an exclusive out to you, because you're constantly in contact with them. They get hit by different people and whatnot, but the people that they start to, talk to a little bit, a little conversation and whatnot, be that guy or that girl that they can remember. So that way you start to develop that connection. Remember, it's all a relationship built business, just like in selling with your buyers and sellers and whatnot. Hard money lenders, same thing. Okay. And maybe they might be able to even after a while, you might be able to get some deals with them and get, some better terms for your tenant, for your buyers. So just hit those hard money lenders. Okay. Couple of things for them to know. They may be able to lend based upon ARV versus what the actual value is now. ARV, for anybody who doesn't know, after repair value. So say, for instance, you find something and it is, it looks bad, but if once fixed up, it's worth 100,000 more. Sometimes they will lend you based on what it is more. They might not gonna lend you the whole thing, but they'll lend you a percentage, and they may give you money for some fix-up costs too. And that can be really valuable for some of your buyers, okay? Sometimes they'll give you lower down payments in certain situations. Whenever you go to get lending on an investment property, single family, they're gonna ask you to put 20% down, okay? If it is multifamily up to 4 units, they're gonna ask you usually for 25% down. Sometimes the hard money lenders will do 15%. It becomes about leveraging your money. And if you can get a good price and leverage a little bit, then they might be able to do that. Now, here's the real gold with hard money lenders, okay? These guys go out and they lend this money to a bunch of different people, right? And there are a ton of people who are watching the DIY shows and, flip this house, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they go into a project and guess what? They do not budget properly and they run out of money and they get foreclosed on. I can't tell you the amount of deals that I've gotten from a hard money lender by just being at the right place at the right time, because they go, hey, you got anything for me? Yes, I have this duplex that someone just foreclosed on, and I'm looking for somebody else to buy it. Well, they've already made their money on it. They'll relend it to you. They've scooped up that equity, and they'll relend it to you because they know, hey, you can get this deal done for them. They don't want to keep it. Hard money lenders are not about keeping inventory. All they want to do is take it, lend that money out to somebody else, get their 8, 9, 12%, whatever it may be, and have somebody else make whatever they can on it, okay? So the returns of foreclosures, ask hard money lenders about their inventory, okay? Another thing that you can get from them that always can potentially be a new deal. Do you know anybody else, any investors who are looking to partner? A lot of times what happens out there is I find investors who, they're trying to invest now, and they wanted to invest 4 years ago. And so they think, hey, I got 25,000 sitting there, and hey, can you find me something? And I'm like, I can't find you anything. Those are great opportunities there because they want to do a deal. They got some cash. They don't know how to do a deal. If you can put a couple people together, that could potentially be a sale for you. Okay. So ask them, do they have other investors who are looking to partner? Okay. All right. If none of you have looked at Craigslist, Craigslist is still a way to find some stuff. It's a tougher one. It's definitely the bargain. It is the 99-cent candy bargain bin at Walmart. That big bargain bin that you're looking at. Sometimes it's candy, sometimes it's DVDs or CDs or whatever at Walmart. That's what Craigslist is. Every now and again, you stick your hand in there and you can find something. And sometimes it's not always what you're thinking. Sometimes it's someone who's listing something for sale by owner or something like that or whatever. Craigslist can yield you some stuff. You just have to kind of look at it and go, hey, is there something there? So don't hesitate to go to Craigslist and just scour it. See, is there something that I can find there? Okay. When you go back to Google and Yahoo, do some searches. Wholesale properties we talked about. FSBO is another one and whatnot that I think is going to come in a lot right now. FSBO is for sale by owners. For sale by owners are owners that they think that they don't need real estate agents. So they're always constantly trying to sell the property themselves and just, trying to save on that commission and whatnot. And they end up usually costing themselves more time and shooting themselves in the foot. I'm not always saying go at FSBOs from the standpoint of trying to get them for listings and whatnot. Sometimes it's worth a call to see, are they looking for, maybe some sort of other deal for it. Lease to own was an old one, and I'm starting to hear a lot of that right now. It's just about putting these things together, okay? As agents and whatnot, we always want to be some sort of resource, but we're just trying to connect dots and whatnot. Always connecting dots and kind of just sowing. Eventually, you're going to reap it, but you want to sow these little seeds here and there, and that's all part of putting these connections together. And if you start doing these things, all these little actions on a daily basis, it's just going to give you more opportunity to have conversations and whatnot. Additionally, the houses for sale, just put houses for sale searches in there. Just start seeing what you can find out there by doing little Google and Yahoo word searches. Okay. I run my rental superstore. We do property management and whatnot. We got a Google business page, and there's different triggers that will get us into that thing and whatnot. And we're always looking for more property management, but same thing with wholesalers and everything else. they're always you know, just putting stuff out there, and there's, you know, whatever, and it's just a matter of doing some searching. And if you can take all these little things that I'm telling you, dedicate an hour a day. If you can dedicate 1 hour a day, I know you can find an hour somewhere and go, I'm going to squeeze out 1 hour a day and see if I can squeeze something out. That's 1 hour a day, 30 hours a month. Okay, that's almost a full work week for some of us. But if you can do that, those things are going to give you just, you're just constantly, like, something else will trigger in your mind to find another deal. Okay, because that's what we're looking for right now. It's constantly, what can I do to search? What can I do to make this work for me? What can I do to find myself another opportunity? Okay. All right. So there's Google and Yahoo. A little bit about us at My Rental Superstore. We do property management. Our monthly fee is 8%. Generally, you know, I said 8 to 10%. Talking about property management and how this affects your client and whatnot, you definitely need a good property manager. You're going to need somebody who's going to be honest with them. Tell them straight up, hey, this is what you're looking at, because nothing can be worse than you sending them to the wrong place, and then also having somebody that just can't get the job done. You know, you got a lot of different competition and people out there that do it, and there's a lot of great property managers out there, but there's a lot of ones that are really bad because they just don't listen. They don't listen to the client's needs and whatnot. And ultimately, you as an agent, you really need a property manager that's going to help you out with that. They're going to have, you know, a lot of resources, online portals, 24/7 access to financials, direct deposits, somebody that can run rental comparables and things like that for you. Also understanding the Landlord Tenant Act. All right, it's very important to understand the Landlord Tenant Act and know these are the different scenarios and things that that can come up whenever you have an issue. And I just posted my phone number in the chat room. Do not hesitate to call. One of the things with looking for deals and looking for anything else, I'm always here as a resource for you guys. Okay, I got an office there at the top of these stairs at the Raintree office. I'm usually there 1 day a week because we're downtown, our main hub. But I'm always there as a resource to really try to help you out with different scenarios and things that come up, because there's all kinds of really things that are going on. All right, I'm gonna touch on a couple of these questions, okay, really quick, guys. Number one, what would you recommend to a client who has about $80,000 to spend on getting an investment property? First thing I would do with a scenario like that, someone's got 80 grand. I'm going to take that 80 grand and I'm going to, if any of you remember back in your real estate school, trying to calculate and whatnot, I'm going to take that 80% and I am going to try to figure out what that is 20% of. So if I can figure out what that calculation, and I believe it's like take 80% and divide by 0.2, and I think that gives you about 320,000, and that's going to tell me what my purchasing power is. Okay, so first things first, whenever somebody comes with about that number, I'm going to look and see what kind of purchasing power does that get for me. Or another way to look at it is what is 80%, 80,000, 20% of, and that would probably be what 400,000. And that tells me what kind of buying power I'm at. So with something like that, a client who's looking at has 80,000 to spend, I might be looking at something that is like a duplex in the 250 to 300,000 range if it you know, has some good rents. Triplex in the 320,000 range if it has some good rents. I might be looking for a single family for them in that 300 range if I'm getting some good rents there. And again, with that being said, it's real important to understand the risk tolerance of your client. If your client is someone who does not have a good risk tolerance, then maybe you want to steer them towards like a single family, and you want to look and you want to try to find that sweet spot of, am I getting good rents, good rental value on a monthly basis compared with the age of the property and everything else like that. All right, so that's something that I would really want to explore with somebody who has about who has about 20,000, or I'm sorry, about 80,000 that they have to spend. Okay. Another good question. How should one interview a potential investor to make sure they are for real and not going to waste your time? Okay, couple of things here, guys. Ask them if they've been pre-qualified with the lender, just like if they are trying to buy a single family home. You want to kind of qualify them with that. Have you talked to a lender? Okay, ask them straight up, how much money do you have? How much do you have liquid to spend? Okay. You need to understand that to make sure that they're not just kind of playing around with you. If they haven't gotten pre-qualified, if they don't have a whole lot of money in the bank and whatnot, then that's the first first thing that you need to kind of qualify them with. Another couple of questions. Let's see here. I might ask them if they've ever had a rental property before. Ask them what they're hoping to accomplish. Okay, really ask them, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? All right, if they don't have some sort of goal about that, a lot of times, and investors also can be kind of tight with giving information to you and whatnot. They're trying to probe you and whatnot. One thing that I like to fire at them is a question like this: are you looking for cash flow, or are you looking for equity down the line? Okay, real investors are looking for one of those two things. A lot of them are looking for cash flow. And if they don't know what cash flow is, they may know it as another term or something like that, but most investors know what cash flow is. And so you want to ask them what kind of cash flow are you looking for too? Ask them that, because you want to probe them that. Also, as you start to ask them their searches, try to get it narrowed down. So when you're talking to this investor, are you looking for a single family in Chandler? Are you looking for a duplex in, Maricopa, whatever it may be? But you want to try to get them to give you some specifics. If they're just kind of general, or if they're kind of, I'm and I get a lot of people like this. Oh, I'm looking for a deal. I'm looking for a deal. What kind of deal are you looking for? Where are you looking at? What are you trying to do? How can I help you? Just all these different things. They're different questions to just ask them to try to qualify them, to make sure that you are dealing with somebody like that. Another question here in the chat: if we refer a property management client to me, will I refer them back when they're ready to sell? Absolutely. I always refer them back to you guys. They're always your clients. I just manage for them. So when it comes to property management, our solution is to try to take care of them as best as they can while they have that rental unit. But when it comes down to sell, that's one of the things, and one of the promises that I have with all of my home group agents is they're your client. I'm not going to try to poach them for you. All right, I'll sit here and help them out. It's a very symbiotic relationship. I greatly appreciate any referrals that we can help out with, but at the same time, that commission money is yours. My job is to try to help you guys make more commission money. Okay. So yeah, absolutely. I always refer them back to you. Okay. Let's see here. Do you know any of hard money lenders that have low down payment requirement? There's one that I work with, Source Capital, guy by the name of Sam. Just Google him. Google him. If not, text me afterwards, and I'll look up the number, and you can talk to them. Now, here's the thing: when you talk about a low down payment requirement for hard money, it's a case by case basis. Okay, so just keep this in mind. You absolutely have to ask them every single time, on a case by case basis. Can I get 10% down on this? Will you lend 15% down on this? Okay, you got to ask. You got to ask every single time with them, because they'll start off, and especially when they don't know you, they're going to say, "Hey, 25% down, this, that, and the other." For hard money lenders, it's the most important thing for them is they're looking at, what am I lending my money on? Okay, so these guys are very good at what they do. They're going to go and do a drive-by, and with just doing a drive-by, usually they can look at it and go, okay, I see this, and this. It doesn't look like there's a lot to do. So yeah, we'll go ahead and I'll lend you 15. I'll let you put 15% down on that. Or they'll tell you right away, no, I need 25% down on it. Or, hey, the maximum I'll lend is this on it. So you always have to talk to them what can you lend on it, okay? And see what they'll do. The cool thing about hard money lenders is they have the flexibility that banks don't. Couple things to keep in mind. Hard money lenders are going to have points that they're going to charge you. So it's like a funding percentage, 1%, 2%, 3%. Those are things to consider. You got to ask the questions, okay? So you always ask the questions. Sometimes points aren't a bad thing if they don't require that you hold on to the property for too long. Sometimes they may go, I need 6 months minimum that you need to pay me, okay? But it's something that you have to ask them, all right? Let's see, another question. When identifying properties, do you pay attention to the cap rate or cash on cash return? Okay, I'll tell you really right now, I rarely pay attention to cap rate. It's not that important to me. It is important to a lot of investors that come from California. To me, it's neither here nor there. The cap rate and whatnot is something that you can evaluate the property on. I look way more closely at ROI. What is my return on investment? And specifically, what is my cash on cash return? Okay, so if I'm buying a property for 100,000 and I put 20,000 down, 20,000 is what I'm looking at. What am I making on my 20 grand? And you know, there usually be some closing costs there too. So let's say it's 25 grand. But I want to know, what am I making on a month to month or yearly basis for my return? Okay, that's way more important to me. Again, your investors, they may look at cap rate and things like that. And I'm not going to go too much into cap rate and whatnot. You can kind of look that up, or you can get me on the side. You can send me a text of 602-327-5584, and we can talk about that on the side a little bit, or shoot me an email at myrentalsuperstore@gmail.com. But I really look at, I think ROI is so much more important from a long-term standpoint. I really like to look at what is my cash doing for me? Does that make sense for me? You know, because if I've got something, if I'm going to tie up a lot of money, or if I'm going to tie up a little bit of money, that can be all the difference in the world. You know, if there's less exposure for me, some people will look at how long does it take me to return my investment with, you know, income that I'm getting in. It really all just depends. You know, it really depends on each one of you, or each individual investor scenario. And it's tough sometimes, because a lot of times the buyers, they don't exactly know. They're trying to get started. So you got to kind of guide them a little bit. But ROI, the return on investment, the easiest way that I like to calculate it is take whatever they're putting in, take the total they're netting for the year, and divide it so that way you can see what percentage you can expect on a yearly basis. Okay, and I can help you with the calculation and everything like that, but just it really comes down to, after all their expenses, how much are they netting each month, multiply by 12, and then divide that by whatever they put in. And that way you've got a good idea. This is what you're looking at. This is your percentage on your money. The cap rate, all that other stuff, it comes into play when you're selling it or whatever else, or if you're looking for financing or whatever. But you know what's important to you. And I mean, again, no right or wrong answer. That's just kind of what works for me. Another question here about 60,000, and I'm just about out of time, guys. But if I had 60,000 off the top of my head, I'd probably be looking for somebody with a condo. I'd look to put them into a condo and whatnot, because at that amount, they're probably not, there's not a ton out there that may work. A small single family house might work or something. And this is probably a first time investment for them. So something simple, easy, help them get their feet wet and whatnot. So that way they can start to kind of move the needle going forward. Okay. And I do suggest that most of the times with investors and whatnot, as you're looking for deals, try to find them something that's going to be easy to digest the first time around. All right. Always the condo, single family house, that is usually the easiest way to do it. Okay. All right. Any other questions, guys, or anything like that? No? I'm going to type right here in the chat my email address and whatchamacallit, and my phone number. You guys can always get them. Let me see if it's at the end of the screen too here. No, I think that was it. But yeah, I'll put it into the chat. But any that are writing it down, 602-327-5584. myrentalsuperstore@gmail.com. You can always talk to Kelly. She's got all my information. Usually there at the Raintree office, usually on Wednesdays right now has been my schedule. Okay. And that's about it. If anybody has any questions or anything else, please don't hesitate to get a hold of me privately or anything else like that. All right. I want to thank you all. Thank you all for attending today. I appreciate your time and whatnot. And yeah, good luck this year. And please reach out whenever you can. Okay. Bye, guys.